This is Betting Weekly Extra Time Euro 2024 edition. 12 opening group games across the first 5 days of action in Germany. And the app Because We Win handicappers have you covered with the best bets and leans as the tournament gets underway. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Steve Wyss and James Eastham for match day one. Steve, some interesting trends over the last couple of European Championships, 24-team European Championships, potentially to look at when it comes to match day one fixtures. Betting the dogs, the outsiders, you're in profit both in 21 and in 16. Unders has also been profitable. Any do's and don'ts for you? Is caution a watchword? What do you think when you're tackling these opening group fixtures of a major tournament?
I think I do actually have some ground rules for each match day of a tournament. And for match day one, I think you've got to be... Down the years, I've learned you've got to be quite conservative, actually. I don't think you can go gung-ho. There's a real temptation to bet on every single game, to look at all the markets, to get really involved. And in my experience, down the years, that often bites you, actually. Then for match day two, don't overreact. And then for match day three, wait for the lineups. So there you go. There's some words of wisdom from me ahead of the match days here in Euro 2024.
That's brilliant. I love that. The one that the takeaway there for me, James... And I'm massively guilty of this. We do all these preview shows. There's so much to read about all teams and new players, and you just want to get involved from the get-go. And as Steve suggested, it might not be the shrewdest thing to do.
Yeah, I think wait for the lineups there is great advice, obviously, for the final group games in particular, where some teams may rotate if they've already qualified. But that actually stands for all the group games, doesn't it? Because we're looking as bettors at the qualifying stage in great detail. How did teams get here? Who are the key players? But obviously there's been time for that to change since the qualifiers finished. So there'll be surprises in these opening matches, in the lineups. There'll be managers making decisions that we didn't expect. It is important to take your time and look at what's going on and assess it as we go through the rounds.
What about the hosts, James? Always first up, of course. It was different last time out because we had different hosts across different countries, but Italy did play first. They did win in Rome. France did win in Paris back in 2016. Is that a thing, do you think? Do we get with the hosts off the bat?
I think it's hard, isn't it? Because these tournaments only come round every couple of years and different host countries are sort of behaving in different ways depending on how the fans feel about the team and how the results have been. I've been in France for two opening matches. Way back in 1998, I was in France when they opened the World Cup, and I was in France for 2016. The French fans, to use that example, are brilliant actually at getting behind the national team when the tournament begins, whatever criticism's gone before. And that certainly helped France in those two circumstances. I personally think Germany will be the same. There's no real reason why the fans wouldn't be behind the team. But I think the support for Germany will be a positive form of pressure rather than a negative. And I think we'll see that play out straight away with this opening game, actually.
Yeah, just on that, obviously England last European Championships, it wasn't the first game, Steve, but their first group game, they drew with Scotland, I think, didn't they? Or did they beat Croatia?
Was it 1-0 against Croatia and then 0-0?
Oh, yes, it was Croatia first. But the pressure is different in different countries, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. The host nation is often does get off to a winning start, I think, down the years, or doesn't lose that often, would be the best way of saying it. Sometimes it can be tight, but, you know, that... the momentum, the energy, the excitement that's built up towards this. You know, we've got to remember in a lot of cases the host nation hasn't actually played a competitive game for a while either, by the way.
Yeah.
So they're chomping at the bit to... I've actually seen some models out there who downgrade Germany because they only use competitive games in terms of the build-up to the tournament. That's a completely different matter entirely. Germany are going to be absolutely fired up for it. We said it on the Outright show. Being at home in front of their own fans is going to make a massive difference to this particular nation.
12 games, match day one across the various groups. We've got 9 covered over the course of the next half hour, 40 minutes or so for you in one way or another. We've got official plays, we've got some leans, and we've got a bit of a curiosity when it comes to one of the fixture that none of the boys have played, but they probably should have. Anyway, we'll get to that shortly. We're going to kick off with the opening game. The atmosphere is going to be something special here. Germany against Scotland. This is Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, to kick off Group A. Germany, as you would imagine, short price favourites here, minus 335. Scotland plus 950. The draw up plus 475. Overs is short at -148 here. The traders are expecting plenty of goals, but James, Germany haven't won any of the last 3 opening games I've made it in tournament competitions. But to counter that, Scotland have been pretty poor in these European Championships, never got out of a group stage, so you're going to have to square various circles for us here. What do we like?
Yeah, I really like Germany to make a winning start here, Steve. I'm backing them on the Asian handicap. -1.5 on the Asian handicap is -118. I think that's a great bet if you're looking for something on this game. We've mentioned the support that Germany will have. It will be a positive pressure, I think, for the players. The fans are going to be right behind the team. That is the nature of fandom in Germany anyway. And the second big factor, I think, in Germany's favour, without wishing to be disrespectful, is the opposition they play here. I think Scotland are going to be as well organised as they can possibly be. Partly a damage limitation exercise, isn't it, for them? Because it would be very foolhardy to go toe-to-toe with Germany and try to play football as much as Germany will. So I'm expecting a rearguard approach from Scotland, try and keep the score down. I just don't fancy them to do it over the 90 minutes. I think we might see them do it maybe in the early stages, or if they were to go a goal behind, they might even tighten up a little bit more and try and avoid conceding that second goal. There's bound to be periods in the game, I think, where Scotland are competitive, where they frustrate Germany. But I really struggle to see Scotland frustrating Germany over the 90 minutes. And I think another factor in this is, can Scotland go down the other end and score? They don't have a great deal of quality. We know that in attack. So I think it's going to be a really, really challenging 90 minutes here for them against a Germany team who are going to be so pumped up. I personally think in the right way. I think they're going to handle the occasion well. They're going to have great support. It's very difficult for me to see Germany failing to win by a couple of goals here. I think they will go on and win by a couple of goals. And that's why I'm leaning towards this pick. Germany, obviously, a very short price to win the game. -335, I think they are to get the 3 points. I prefer them on the Asian handicap. I do think they'll win by a couple of goals, and that's my pick on the match.
-1.5. Germany need to win by 2 or more. Tend to think if this was a qualifier, you might be looking at a bigger Asian line maybe to overcome. So Germany strong favourites, but we're siding with the hosts on Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern for that Group A opener. Got a lean for you next from Steve. Saturday, midday kickoff, Group B. This is Italy versus Albania. Just talk us through this lean. Not an official play for you, Steve.
No, I didn't want to have too many official plays. I said at the start of the show, you've got to err on the side of caution a little bit. But I'm not expecting this game to be a classic. I quite like under 2.5 goals. -132 at the time of recording with Bet Rivers. I think this match will kick off actually a 2.25 goal line, Dan. I'm expecting this whole group to be pretty low scoring. It's a massive candidate to be the lowest scoring group for those who like to bet in that market. You've got Spain, Italy, Croatia. They all know they really probably need to beat Albania. Albania are a very prideful nation. But they know that their chances of getting out of this group are pretty damn low. And I think if they came out of this competition with, say, 1 draw, I think it'd be very respectable for them. I think they're going to park a bus. I think they're going to really try and frustrate Italy. And Italy don't have they're not that strong going forward, are they? They lack a number 9. They probably lack a little bit of creativity as well. This feels to me like Italy, what they do at tournaments, do the bare minimum, get the goal 1-0 and then just sit on it, control the game. There's even a risk of a 0-0, but I think 1-0 or 2-0 to Italy. Italy win to nil is -104. That could be a good shout here as well. But I do like the under 2.5. I just don't see this game really going anything crazy at all.
Yeah, watch out for the cards in this one as well. Daniele was telling me that an awful lot of Albanian players either play in Italy or have played in Italy. There is a little bit of an edge potentially between the two teams, but unders is the play that we like. We've got a Sunday lean for you, midday kickoff Eastern Group C. James has got a play, or a lean I should say, in the Slovenia-Denmark game. James?
Yes, my lean here is Slovenia plus 0.75 on the Asian handicap at -115. This is all about the qualifying group, Dan. These two teams were in the same qualifying group and they finished with exactly the same number of points. So if you are somebody that places value on how teams qualify, there's actually very little to pick between Slovenia and Denmark. If you look at the two head-to-head games they played in qualifying, in Slovenia, it finished 1-1. In Denmark, it was only a 2-1 win to Denmark, so the games were close. And yet, if you look at the markets on the tournament, Denmark are far, far more favoured by the markets than Slovenia in every which way. And that's including on this game, so it's obviously a neutral territory game. Denmark, I think, are minus 134 to win it. Slovenia are as big as plus 415. It's very difficult, I think, to justify those odds based on the fact that over the qualifying period there was nothing to pick between them, and head-to-head there was very little to pick between them. So now there's obviously other factors which come into it, tournament experience, how the teams have evolved since qualifying, and that's why I went as a lean here rather than a pick. I think Denmark probably do justify their place as favourites ahead of Slovenia in the group betting, but I feel in a one-off game here, Slovenia will, I think, be fairly confident here, knowing they've been through qualifying against Denmark and done pretty well against them and matched them in terms of their points total. They won't be overawed by this game. So I felt, the market should probably make this slightly closer than it is, and that's why it's a lean on Slovenia plus 0.75
Denmark, I think,
the Asian handicap.
Denmark are interesting because I've not heard, prior to the last World Cup, they were pretty much everyone's dark horse, weren't they? But no one's really talking about them heading into this event. They did really well in the last Euros. Interesting side. I'm on a watching brief with them because I'm not really sure what version.
What, from a positive point of view?
I'm leaning more positive. I'm expecting more positive stuff from them than negative, but I'm not entirely sure. If I was to have a bet in this game, you know what it'd be? I think it'd be, James just said it in the qualifying there. Both teams score, yes. It's actually plus money with Bet Rivers. I don't trust either defence. I'd be looking at the likes of Sesko to score any time, and Højlund actually tends to raise it for his nation. So that's what I would be leaning towards here.
A couple of leans when it comes to Slovenia against Denmark. Steve, we're going to get to an official pick from James in the Serbia-England game, which is Sunday 3 p.m. Eastern Group C. England are the favourites here at minus 225, but they can start slowly. We've seen that previously in European Championships and World Cups. They might win, but never particularly fluent, or traditionally anyway. What do you make of England against Serbia before we get James' pick?
I like James's pick. I'll let him discuss that in a minute. I quite like the goals. England got, actually, everyone said this in the last World Cup, England are going to get off to a slow start. I think it was Iran, wasn't it? Everyone was saying 1-0, whatever. And England battered them. So if we see that version of England, then let's see. I'm a bit worried about the English defence. I think England are going to have to outscore a few teams a bit more. Serbia, we know their main strength is obviously in attack. I think it'd be a good watch, actually. I don't think it'll be a damp squib of a game. But you are right. Historically, if you don't look at the last World Cup, then England can sometimes start a little bit slow.
You usually beat the rank and file. James, talk us through your play.
Yeah, my pick on the game is on goals here. Dan, it's Serbia-England, both teams to score yes at plus 105. That price is way too big for me. I thought this was guaranteed to be minus money. It's a real surprise to me that it's this big. So my thinking here is England, obviously, as Steve has said, they're going to have to outscore teams to do well in this tournament. We think they've obviously got a huge amount of quality in attack, not only Harry Kane, but the players around him. But they've got problems in defence. We know that. Whatever people think of Harry Maguire, he is out. And for me, he is a loss simply because it creates uncertainty in that second centre-back position alongside John Stones. On this first game, it looks as though we won't have Luke Shaw playing for England either. So there are problems at the back for England. I find it difficult to know why they'd be fancied here to not win the game. I understand that, but to keep a clean sheet, because Serbia are a real threat going forward. A bit like England, they're probably going to have to score their way to doing well in this tournament rather than defending their way to doing well. They scored in all 8 of their qualifiers. And I think one factor that's absolutely crucial on this particular game is that Serbia had the highest percentage of headed goals in the qualifiers. Now, the reason that's important is because Harry Maguire's not there. I do think that will make England more vulnerable in the air. It just opens up another way that Serbia, I think, can play to one of their strengths here. So I'm expecting an attacking match here. I think both teams' quality lies in attack rather than defence. I think we'll see a goal probably earlier rather than later. I'd be surprised if we got to half-time at 0-0 here. So I think it will open up. And I think, that vulnerability that England have got at the back, married with Serbia's attacking quality, I think improves Serbia's chances of scoring here. So I think both teams to score at plus money, plus 105 on this game is a great opportunity.
I'm starting to think maybe, Steve, you could play Serbia on the Asian line here. Do you think? I don't know what start they get. Would they get a goal?
I think the Asian handicap line is plus minus one. In fact, it's actually 1.25 now. I think I would actually agree with you there. But England's firepower, if they do get going, and anyone who watched the Iceland friendly will realize that feels like a million miles away. But trust me, when Belgium gets it back in this team, when the rocket has been put up the backsides of these players, they will actually start to perform, I think. So there is a danger that England... Do you know what's a big danger? Say England are leading by 1 goal with, say it was 2-1 up with, 5 minutes to go. Serbia would go for it. And I could see it like a backdoor cover from England, as we say. So that would concern me on the handicap line. I really do like both teams scoring, yes, as well, actually. Plus money, it's just too big. It's too big. I don't trust the English defence. Obviously, you would expect England to score on Serbia. I think it's a cracking-looking play from James for match day 1 here.
Let's get to the game featuring Romania against Ukraine. This is Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern in Group E. Ukraine are favourites, just a little bit bigger than even money at plus 104 here. Steve, Ukraine have been tipped up. I've noticed one or two social media tipsters saying that Ukraine could go quite far in the competition. I don't quite see that, but they're a decent side.
Yeah, on the outright show, I did tip them up to do well. In the group outright, I tipped them to do well, and I think they could get a reach into the last 16. I think a last 16 match would be Netherlands potentially against Ukraine, and I said on that show I would definitely be happy about that. I don't trust Ronald Koeman's Netherlands, but in terms of this first group game, I'm going to have to put my money where my mouth is, because I did rather go in hard.
You rubbished Romania.
I did, and I said I'd be against them in all the games, and I'm going to stick to my word here, and I'm really being quite aggressive and a little bit greedy for the first match day, because my play is Ukraine to win to 0 at plus 210. This is a full 1 unit stake. No hot dog or anything like that. This is an official pick. Would not want to put off anyone going Ukraine money line at plus 102 around the even money mark. But I was thinking about it, right? The only real two scores that I fear here are 0-0 and 1-1. I don't see Ukraine winning and both teams scoring, if you know what I mean. Because I've said before, this Romanian attack, I think, is really blunt. Their 2 warm-up games, they drew 0-0 against Bulgaria and then Liechtenstein. I mean, the amount of times that Liechtenstein would keep a clean sheet is I'd imagine it's a very rare event, let's just say that. So that's a big concern for me. I think they had over 30 shots, which, maybe they're a bit unlucky or whatever, but that's a concern. I don't think Romania are going to trouble the scorers too much in this tournament, and Ukraine, I think, are the better side. They've got definitely more offensive firepower. Dovbyk, someone like that. I actually think the match will be an under as well, under 2.5. I think 1-0 or 2-0 to Ukraine feels just about right for this game. I think it's one of the early kickoffs in the day. Might be a little bit warmer. Sometimes those games can be a bit slower paced, you know what I mean? First half could be 0-0. And then I think just a little bit of Ukraine quality might be the difference. I think Romania will be quite negative. I said on the previous show, I don't think they're going to offer too much, and I think that negativity will go against them. They'll come in here, they'll be thinking, I'll nick a draw, where I think Ukraine Ukraine will give it a good go in this match, and I think their extra quality will eventually prevail. So I think I'll take a shot at the big price, plus 210, Ukraine win to 0, and for those who do like a correct score, the 1-0 or 2-0 is very much in operation here.
Yeah, I might have to do a little bit of research with those early kickoffs. I know in Qatar it was the thing, wasn't it, where we didn't have a lot of goals. Obviously very, very different in terms of environment in the Middle East, even though it was a Winter World Cup, to Germany in the summer. And Northern European summer is turning into very much a damp squib, isn't it, in the minute? Let's get to Belgium, Slovakia, which is Monday, midday, Eastern Time, Group E. Belgium short price favourites here, James, at -215. Slovakia +600 draw, +360 on the money line here. Belgium are very much going under the radar for a side that have been perennial dark horses. I've not seen anybody tipping them to do well. What do you make of the Belgian squad?
Yeah, I agree, Dan. They're going under the radar, and I'm starting to think they might be underrated, actually. I know they're 8th favourites in the outright market with Bet Rivers. They're +2,000 to win the tournament. They're scheduled, if things panned out as you'd expect it to in the group stage, to meet France in the quarterfinals. As a France follower, I'm starting to get a bit nervous about that, actually. Belgium would have reason to be motivated. They lost to France in the 2018 World Cup semi-final, and there's plenty of bad blood actually since that game between those nations. But that's getting way ahead of ourselves. I think they're probably a little bit better than people think, and that's why I'm backing them here against Slovakia. I'm backing them -1 on the Asian handicap at -136. So if Belgium win by a single goal, you get your stakes back. If they win by 2 or more, then you'll make a profit. So you can only lose here if Belgium failed to win the game. There are reasons why Slovakia could give them a tough match. They did well in qualifying. They've done well in their warm-up friendlies, albeit against weak opposition, but they've had 2 big wins to give them confidence. I'm back in Belgium, Dan, because I just feel that the quality they've got in their team should get them the win here. And if you look through the squad, you know, the golden generation of Belgian football may be fading now, but there are still players in that squad that can cause you real problems. Kevin De Bruyne is obviously still there. Lukaku scored heavily in the qualifiers. I really like Lois Openda, who's a great option to have as well up front. Jeremy Doku has finished the season really strongly with Manchester City. So there are reasons why Belgium should beat the weaker teams when they face them. How far they'll go in the tournament is another question, but this is one of the games where they should win. And with the bet, you've got a safety net, really. If they win by just a single goal, you don't lose anything. If they go on and win by 2 or more, then you make a profit. So I'm expecting good things here from Belgium. As I say, the individual quality is there to get the win here. And I think the price is a fair one. So that's my thinking. It's Belgium -1 Asian handicap, and it's -136.
This is a classic James Eastham. As long as my selection wins the game,
So
I'll
it's
get
another
my money
good
back
price,
if they have a
for this.
You know, yeah, it's a great price.
Belgium win to nil. Belgium win to nil +140. I think I like that as well.
Yeah.
Are
we underestimating Belgium a little bit, Steve?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I said in the group preview show, my problem with them is the quarter-final matchup, and I would always back France against them. And I just feel that it's obvious. I think Belgium comfortably win the group. I think France will win theirs. So it's really hard to see how they don't collide, and I just have to favour France.
Speaking of France, obviously James and Steve over the last few years with the app Because We Win team have been regulars when it comes to tipping in Ligue 1 and indeed the French national side. So I cannot believe that none of you have given us a selection in France's opener. It's 3 p.m. Eastern on Monday against Austria. Are all the prices right, or you're just shying away from it? Come on.
You want a pick? I'll give you a pick. I'll give you 2 or 3 picks if you want.
Well, look. First of all, I'm saying, why haven't you?
Right.
Well, my thinking on it is the price.
No, go on.
Steve, but I think the prices generally are right. Yeah, I mean, I looked through it obviously in great detail, probably more than the other games, if I'm honest. I think -1.25 Asian handicap line on France is fair. Yeah, we've seen them just win by a single goal, haven't we, in opening matches? I think back in 2018 when they won the World Cup, was it a 1-goal win against Australia? I can't remember. So they'll just get the job done. I think it was the same at Euros 2016 against Albania. I don't fancy France to win big. I do fancy them to win. And on that basis, for me, the prices are right.
Yeah, I agree,
Steve.
Yeah, I think I think the prices. Listen, it comes down to I just felt there were better bets elsewhere.
Fair enough.
You know, we've got how many games are in the first group gate? 12.
You just know that we've got a loyal band of followers. You just know.
I'll give a bit of insight into the game. I think it actually will be quite a good watch. I don't think this is going to be a poor game. I think there'll be goals in it. I'd be leaning both teams score. Yes, I'd be leaning over 2.5. I think France win by exactly 1 goal at +260. Could be worth a look here. 2-1 to France feels about right. But this is one of those games I feel the books are pretty well set from what I expect. Austria, there's a few labelling them dark horses. They might be all right. They're well coached by Ralf Rangnick. So it's one of those games where it might be just a watching brief, like I say, but I don't think it's going to be a poor game.
No official picks in France against Austria. We have got an official play in Turkey against Georgia, and we've got a lean as well. This is Tuesday midday Group F. Turkey are -129, Georgia +400, draw +262. Over and under here, under 2.5 is favourite by some way, -159. Big game for both, really. Steve, I mean, it's going to set the tone for them, really. Certainly from a Georgia point of view, they are expected to finish bottom of the group. Turkey were talking horses ahead of the last European Championships, but their form heading into this opener has been poor. What do we like?
Both teams score yes for me, Dan, at plus money price. I very nearly took the over 2.25 goals instead at -109. We've got an over and under 2.25 line here, but I think both teams score yes at +106 is what I'm going to go with because, again, it goes back to the group preview show. I put my money where my mouth is here. I said I don't trust the Turkish defence at all, and I think Georgia will have a good go in this tournament. I think if you look at Georgia's strengths, really it's the goalkeeper and the two attacking players, Kvaratskhelia and Mikatadze. So I think they've got weapons there that can. I mean, I wouldn't trust Turkey ever to keep a clean sheet for me. I just wouldn't. The sort of side who make random errors, all sorts of things can happen, and things can get a bit mental in their games. I was speaking to someone last night who actually watched their most recent friendly against Poland, and they lost it. And someone said, I said, "What do you make of them?" And they said, "Do you know what? They remind me of like a Brighton." And I said, go on, because that could be perceived in many different ways.
That sounds like praise.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is it a compliment? But they were apparently saying that Turkey create a lot of chances, take a lot of shots, but don't always finish them. So that's why I'm going with the both teams score. Yes, it keeps the 1-1 draw on side. Turkey will miss chances. They've got players who will shoot wildly from distance. Turkish players probably want to get goal of the tournament. That's the sort of mentality they have. So, if you can get shot lines and shot on target lines, maybe you could look at them. But I just think it's going to be quite a good, entertaining game. Georgia, I think, will have a go. The lowest ranked side in the tournament. They know what their strengths are. They know what their weaknesses are, and they're not going to be able to grind a 0-0 here. Dan. Turkey are going to suck them into a shootout. Turkey know they've got to win the game. They can't not afford to beat Georgia. I think it's going to be quite open. And, I don't trust that Turkish defence. A lot of people are presuming Georgia won't score a goal here. I think they will. So I'm happy to go with a plus money selection. There's quite a few tempting both teams to score yes in the first round of match days, by the way. This one was just far too big for me to resist.
That's the case for. James is going to put the case against, although only via a lean.
Yeah, so slightly different view on this game to Steve, I guess. So, it's a lean rather than a pick here. I've gone Turkey, Georgia, under 2.25 goals at -118. I've been trying to get in the mind of Willy Sagnol, the Georgia manager here. What do you do if you're Willy Sagnol, you're manager of Georgia, first ever appearance at a big tournament, and it's your first game? And I've just been thinking about it, and actually, I think what he'll do is he'll try and keep a clean sheet, I think, as long as he possibly can. I think Steve's right. They do have some weapons up front to Georgia, and they will pose a threat. But if you look at how Georgia made it through the playoffs, they beat Luxembourg 2-0 and had a couple of hairy moments in that game. I think they had a Luxembourg goal ruled out with VAR, and then they went up the other end and scored. And then they played Greece, and it went 120 minutes, 0-0, and then went through on penalties. So I think he'll want to continue that in some way. Keep a clean sheet as long as he can. It's a big stage for these players. It's quite a young team, is Georgia. There's a lot of young players in the squad, and some are going to be in the starting lineup as well. So I think if you're Willy Sagnol and you're approaching the game, you can't think too much about trying to get points to qualify this early. I think he'll try and make them as difficult to break down as he possibly can. Now, it may or may not work. They may concede. As I say, they do have that threat, as Steve has said as well up front. So I think they'll cause Turkey some problems. But I think the mindset of Willy Sagnol, the manager of Georgia, will be to try to make them difficult to beat, build confidence slowly, knowing that that's what got them through those 2 qualifying games, and go from there. So I'd be surprised if there were 3 or more goals in this game, and that's why I went with the unders. Under 2.25 goals, I think it's a fair price, minus 118. And I think Georgia will try as much as they can to dictate how the game unfolds.
There we go. Opposing sides when it comes to that particular fixture. One more official play before we get some best bets. Portugal, Czechia, 3 p.m. Tuesday, Eastern Group F. Portugal minus 190. Everyone's tipping up Portugal to go well. We've got 3 cappers who have selected them in their futures market. They have struggled in group games previously. They are a team that tend to build momentum, and I can't remember which show I was on with. It might have been with one or 2 of you, and we were talking about Czechia or Czech Republic, if you prefer it. I was starting to get persuaded that they might go well. However, Steve, you are very much firmly in the Portuguese camp with your outright pick, and you're taking them to get off to a good start here.
Yeah, I've got a fair bit invested in Portugal in this tournament, and I'm going to go in again here. This is a pretty obvious selection. This is going to be one of the most popular picks of the whole match day 1. I'm going with Portugal on the -1 Asian handicap. It's -117 at the time of recording. I think it may well kick off sort of a -1.25 line, even bordering 1.5 actually. I think there's going to be quite a lot of money for Portugal. So I just think it's I said on the group preview show, I think there's night and day between them and the rest of the sides here. Czech Republic are not terrible by any means, and I think they'll qualify. I think I actually predicted them second place, but I don't think they're as good as Portugal. At very bare minimum, I think Portugal get the win by 1 goal, which is fine here. It'd be a push. The golfing in class is a bit too much. Czech Republic have actually suffered a blow in the last day or 2. Their midfielder, Michal Sadilek, is ruled out of the tournament after falling off a bike. I mean, that's damn unlucky, isn't it? A key player, according to their manager. So, that's a slight negative for them.
It's unlucky or stupid, depends how he fell off the bike. But anyway.
Yeah, I think it may be. It's going to be a tough test for the Czech Republic. Ivan Hasek, this is his, the new manager. He's had a great start in the friendlies, but this is a different animal. I think it's a different Portugal, Jan. You say they're known for sort of a slower start, gathering momentum. It's because all their previous coaches in recent years have been more negative. You know what I mean? Wanting to don't get off to a losing start. Roberto Martinez is a completely different kettle of fish. That's why they brought him in, to change their philosophy. He loves being off the front foot. He doesn't settle for 1-0 wins either. He wants to get the second goal. He likes to rack up the score. So I think they're a really good team to bet on a handicap for that reason. There's some teams who are often known for being 1-0 merchants, and you feel like there's quite a strong chance of a push in this situation. I think with this handicap here, there's a really good chance they cover it fully. So very happy to be on the Portuguese here in match day 1 against the Czech Republic side, who are not bad, but I just think Portugal are much better.
Great stuff. Minus money pick from Steve to wrap up the show just before we get best bets, because I don't think I've heard James's thoughts on Portugal over the various preview shows that we've done over the course of the last few days. Have you got any sort of handle on Portugal? Would you want to back them in the outright market? Do you think they'll go well in the Euros, James?
Yeah, well, I think their starting 11 is almost as good as any in the tournament. And on that basis, I think they're slightly underrated. I think the gap between England and France at the top of the market and Portugal in the outright market is a bit too big. And so on the prices, I would love to back them. I have a slight reservation over the manager in the sense, can he get them to actually win it? I think sometimes with Martinez, you can argue it's slightly style over substance. He's very wedded to a particular way of playing, and it may not win at the top level. So that would be my slight reservation. But I think they've got as much quality in their starting 11 as pretty much anybody, and it would be a massive surprise to me if they didn't go very deep in the tournament.
We like Portugal to get off to a good start against Czechia in the -1 Asian handicap market at -117. Best bets, match day 1 from you both before we say goodbye for now. Steve, what's your best play?
I really do like the Ukraine win to 0, but the best bet, it would have to be Portugal -1.
That's the biggest bet. That'd be great. +210.
I know. I think, I really do like it, but Portugal -1 Asian handicap would have to be the best bet, I think.
James, your best play, match day 1 fixtures?
Yeah, my best one, Serbia, England, both teams to score, yes. at plus 105.
I really like that one. I think they're both fantastic bets for match day one. I'm starting to worry a little bit about England in that game, but we shall see. That wraps up Betting Weekly Extra Time Euro 2024 edition. A reminder, we will be with you throughout the tournament. All the best picks, match by match. Nigel's going to be on the ground in Germany as well. We'll keep you up to date with our Twitter feeds, of course, with all of our latest picks, and make sure that you're across our Instagram feed and our YouTube channel. Many thanks to Steve and to James. From all of us, it's goodbye.